So far, the table is filled with specific places the ball could go to receive some points or other feedback, but it's kind of bare. The ball can still make contact with a lot of places that serve no purpose. While that's not a bad thing in some cases, it would be nice to give the player more opportunities for points instead of only the rollovers and holes. Targets is one of the simplest way to implement giving points. They come in many shapes and sizes, but they all work similarly. When the ball hits it, give an arbitrary amount of points.
Oh, you got one under, eh?
There's also a drop variant that is a one-time use until a reset. They can act like a temporary barrier you have to break down, sometimes allowing for the ball to reach a new section of the playfield. The setup is just to use a static body with any shape in it, in my case it's simply a box, and have a script attached that reads collision from a ball only. Except static bodies do not have the ability to read collisions by themselves. You can especially tell by comparing the available signals between the two types. So I have to add extra code to the ball to make the static body act like it received the collision event. In the ball script, a part of its code will check for every node related to physics it's collide with, if it has a certain component script inside of it, or rather, a plain node carrying the script. If it does pass those conditions, then it will call on that component to do something. This component node will only take the ball's impact as a signal. It needs to be parented at the root of the body in question that needs to respond to the ball's collision. This node structure will be common to any pinball element to receive hits and react to it accordingly, mainly giving points among other things. Now the targets can properly respond. On to the other elements. Bumpers are sort of like targets. They are large, circular shaped, and have a profile of a mushroom. Okay, not those bumpers then. What they do especially is send the ball back outwards. These are more commonly called jet or pop bumpers, but I will continue referring to them as just bumpers for now. Just like the targets, they use a static body and a shape, which this time is the cylinder, and they must react to contact from the ball, so they also get the component created just earlier. Aside from just giving out points, the ball's rolling velocity is also altered. For its visual representation, I am not in the modeling mood this time, so I'm just going to create one out of primitive shapes. And lastly, a brief animation is played when the ball gets pushed away. A kind of ring gets pulled down and springs back up. The real-world counterpart does this because the ring squeezes the ball out of the area. Now, if you have a vague idea of the typical lower pinball layout, you may have noticed these triangular rubber barriers above the flippers not doing much. This configuration of rubber is actually called Slingshots, but they are not really living up to their name, not really shooting the ball per se. The long slanted part is known for launching the ball across the lower playfield, and most often ping-pong between the pairs of slingshots. But because of the way I generate them, I have no way to access the static body directly in Editor to apply the component. They are set to generate when the game loads to prevent creating clutter within the editor. The editor only has the post as the children that defines its shape. I have to apply it after the generation by the script in runtime, during the game. The component now receives collision from the balls, however it's everywhere on it that it works. I only want it on one side, between two posts, preferably the longest edge. Fortunately, the signal does pass along what part it was collided on. During generation, I can distinguish parts of the shape by giving the collision shape nodes a unique name with a number that describes its order. And then upon contact, I can compare those names as prefixes and then extract the number to get the exact side the ball has collided on. To select the side I want, I'm going to introduce something called a barrier attachment. Barrier attachments are automatically set between the posts within a rubber barrier. That behavior is handled within the parent barrier node during the loop generation step, so it realigns whenever I need to tweak the post positions. What two posts? Well, that is determined by the order of its siblings. Whenever the ball collides with the rubber on that particular section, that attachment will receive the filtered signal and do whatever it needs to do. I can derive from this base class to eventually create the Slingshot node. Along with giving points, it will also shoot the ball away from its side. With some added visual touches, I have allowed the attachment to modify the rubber loop shape so I can give visual feedback as to what it is doing with animation. The modification really is imagining if there's an additional post around that section, so the loop encompasses it as well. It does help show why the ball gets pushed out by the rubber ring compared to real life using its mostly hidden mechanisms. Like with the previous video with the ball holes, any of these elements could be visually different, or is just another object that functions similarly, but these are the usual elements littered across almost all tables nowadays. You may have noticed the table have been made longer compared to the last video. It was to accommodate the bumpers, since they are currently the largest part made so far. They are that big because I tried my best to scale them properly with the real world counterpart against the ball. The table will eventually catch up to size with the actual pinball tables, since it is still quite small to allow for similar complex designs. Oh, and I finally got this plunger thing implemented. It already is annoying launching the ball by a magnet. It's quick to get up and running. Just time how long the plunger button was held and then upon release set the ball speed upwards proportional to that duration. I will not worry about the visuals. Cool, now we have a mostly functioning table. I think it would be fair to have a proper score display on screen. I went with a typical DMD or dot matrix display to put up on the screen when playing for now. It takes an off-screen low-resolution render of numbers and uses a shader to convert each pixel to a large grid of circles. In the same display, I also put a smaller counter for the remaining balls for a game. A bit of playtesting shows the ball now tends to get lost in the outer lanes of the lower playfield since the addition of the Slingshots. I need to lower the scoop shape on those lanes anyways since the gap is unusually large. While it isn't visually pleasing and complex, I think it lands on the lower end of being a pinball table from the late 20th century. When it comes to the actual tables, there are special states, events, and conditions that can be met that would increase the rate at which points are earned. As of now, there are a static amount of points per point giving element, which work for the most part. I do not have much post-editing opinions to say with this one, so enjoy the remainder of this video with a bit of gameplay. Leave a comment with questions or critiques because I'd like to know if these edits are interesting. Enjoy my Patreon if you think these are still worth going through. There's still a long adventure ahead.